9 years is because half the world is not connected to the internet. We see that there are a plethora of these digital solutions. We're here to talk about only digital, right? Like what's happening in the digital world, but we need to remember that there are children, and half of the world's children are actually not connected to the internet, even to start with. So how can we then build digital tools that are catering to their unique needs, their unique realities, that can then help them be included into systems? So how can we, even in the blockchain world, build keeping in mind that internet connectivity is a very real problem, and then reaching children and reaching young people is very important, and keep that in mind as we grow and build more solutions. So we launched the venture fund back in 2014, which is about 9 years ago. Can you click next as well? Okay, perfect. So we launched a pool funding vehicle, which is currently $35 million. We held a bunch of Bitcoin, so 8 Bitcoin, 2,527 ETH. So we had some amount of funding there. And the purpose of this fund is really to be able to test, invest, and position for scale early stage startups that have the potential to change the way UNICEF operates. So how can we change what we do at UNICEF and use technologies to make processes, systems, programs more efficient? We do this by investing in frontier tech, and by frontier tech, we of course look at blockchain, drones, data science, virtual, augmented realities. What we also try to do is conduct a landscape analysis every sort of 2 to 3 years to identify what is actually frontier. What do we mean by frontier? And how can we change with how the technologies evolve? I mean, just the blockchain industry doesn't even take 2 years to change. It changes every 2 months. So we need to, as a UN entity, make sure we're keeping up to speed with what's happening around the world. What makes this fund unique is we exclusively and only invest in emerging markets. We do not invest in startups registered anywhere outside of emerging markets. We operate in 160, have made investments in about 85. So we have still a big gap that we want to cover. But our goal here is to encourage local entrepreneurs to solve for solutions that are built to address local contexts. We don't want to have a German solution solving for a Kenyan problem. So that's a big focus. We only invest in open source. So we force our organization and companies we work with to really value, understand the meaning of open source, and build in the open. We have also a big focus on female leaders and founders. So about 44% of our portfolio consists of female-led or founded companies. We also work very closely with the rest of the companies to ensure they're building diverse teams and understand really the value of why you should have diverse teams. And last but not least, as I mentioned before, we did launch a crypto fund. We are still the only UN agency or entity that actually operates in crypto. We make investments, seed stage funding, $100,000. Companies that do well have the potential to get additional funding. So there's growth funding, which is anywhere between $200,000 to $400,000. And this essentially is so that if a startup is actually generating positive results, is looking to pilot their solution in an additional country context, deploy with another country, we help these solutions from emerging markets scale to other emerging markets. We also, of course, provide extensive technical assistance. So we have a technical support program, which is very needs-based, developed on unique company realities on how we support solutions across diversity, equity, inclusion, data privacy, trust, open source modeling, business model support. We have Arun here who leads our blockchain team. He works very closely also with the blockchain companies to help them with their strategy. We've made so far 146 investments. 81 are in startups, 65 are in country offices. So the country office piece is essentially us investing in UNICEF country offices, encouraging them to use technology directly. So they can use the investment to further invest in a startup. They can work with an NGO, or they can hire people and build things themselves. The point is to encourage emerging markets, whether UNICEF or startups, to essentially work with technology. Now, like where we invest in the investment thesis, of course, we look at education, health, climate, the traditional UNICEF sort of thematic areas, and and focus spaces, but then we also have a big emphasis on whatever this looks like in terms of economic opportunity, industry, innovation, and infrastructure. I'll come to that in a slide. This is an example of an education solution, so a more classic UNICEF example on what we invest in. This was an AI solution to improve children's cognitive skills. This is a company based in Mexico. They started with one game, created a second game, piloted with the Mexican country office in UNICEF to scale their solution across Mexico, and now have actually signed a contract with the government of Guatemala to scale these two games across Guatemala. This is more of the industry innovation infrastructure, which is the underlying core technology. It's a blockchain solution based in India called Statwig. They've actually developed a supply chain solution, so more sort of early use cases of blockchain. We invested in them to track vaccines all the way from manufacturers to hospitals, but the same solution is now being used by the government of India to track rice bags all the way from farmers to government distribution centers. So our purpose is to showcase to UNICEF how the same underlying technology can be used for multiple purposes. It doesn't need to be used just to do one thing, but can do multiple things. In terms of impact, we have sort of a big emphasis, again, as a UN agency, you need to look at what is the impact you're creating as an organization. As much as we also want to focus here on what technology is doing, there's also children. We have been able to reach, our startups and portfolio has been able to reach 41.5 million beneficiaries. We're seeing that 56 different UNICEF country offices are actually using these solutions. So outside of where we made the investment. So for instance, we have actually with us Z Labs. So we've invested in Z Labs, which is in Trinidad and Tobago, is where we've made the investment. If we're talking about 56 countries that are using the solution, so imagine India using Z Lab solution. That would be counted as one. Next. We also look at impact from a financial perspective. So our portfolio has been successful in generating 2.6x additional funding or follow-on funding from third-party sources. So we are seeing financial returns and results. Portfolios generating revenue about 65%, and then 40% is reporting a profit. We also have had actually 7 companies exit our portfolio, so they've been acquired, and this ranges anywhere between 6 million to 75 million. So we're seeing that also as a kind of indicator of success to see open source businesses do well. Maybe I'll just talk about one example here really quickly, which is just Cloudline. It's a drone solution. They've actually created a really cool airship that can when we started with them, they could carry about 10 kg payloads. Now they carry 50 kg payloads, and they deliver vaccines, blood supplies in different parts. So this is an example of a company where we invested in South Africa, but they're actually being used both in Namibia as well as in Mozambique to do this kind of drone delivery of systems. And now coming to the crypto fund, the reason why we're here and we're interested and excited to engage with this developer community is because we realized pretty early on, so this was launched in 2019, that we wanted to not just expand our blockchain prototyping and use cases, but also wanted to be able to leverage crypto for an organization that is big and make them more friendly to build their institutional systems and muscle memory on how can you operate in a digital currency. For now, it's crypto. How this industry shapes and changes, we'll see. But it's important to be able to be an agile organization that can respond to things quickly. And so we felt like a big requirement or a need to start shaping what that system can look like for UNICEF. So we launched as a fairly small fund working in crypto. We are able to accept, hold, and disperse cryptocurrencies. So essentially, we make these investments in startups. We also require our startups to spend their crypto in its native form. So we want to be able to show to our donors, to our partners, and to UNICEF how we can actually do a lot more transparently in crypto. Next. So far, we've supported about We support about 40 plus projects. Of course, you already know what it would mean in terms of transparency, cost, and time. What was interesting for us and as a learning for the organization was when we accepted the crypto, it was about 2.1 million worth. When we dispersed it, it was 3.7 million worth. So we had to expand our operational and programmatic capacity to be able to absorb that. But more importantly, and why we're here actually at an unstable conference is really to talk about when we made this investment, sure, we had to invest and program for 3.7 million instead of 2.1 million is one thing. But then these startups and beneficiaries received this funding, which then faced the aftermath of what happened there, which was hard. Which was hard for us as an organization because then we needed to understand how do we support these companies after there's been sort of a crazy reduction in the prices. And also for our startups to understand how do they then complete a work plan for which they had sort of estimated approximately 100K, but now have a lot lesser than what they had thought or envisioned, which is where the value or the role of stablecoins comes in, how we as an organization can diversify our holdings to be able to accept and bring to our basket of holdings the correct stablecoin, which can help us as an organization provide options to our startups so that they're not set or tied down to just ETH and Bitcoin, but have the option to change their currency. I already covered this. We can skip. I think it's yours. Okay, so we've actually had, again, very small, significant amount of funding coming back from a startup to the venture fund. They actually did an NFT sale and contributed funding back to us. But it was actually nice to see that it's usually the crypto community and the blockchain solutions that have that incentive to think about also giving back to the community. So we always like to share, this is a gamified solution investment we made in Argentina in a company called Xcapit. And they contributed back to us around this time last year. And we have now the blockchain stuff, which Arun can walk us through.
Thanks. Yeah, so this is a very sort of a full slide, but the idea is we started way back. So 2015, we did our first blockchain pilot within the team. That was, I think at that time, the team, they took some photographs of ourselves, hashed it, put it on the Bitcoin blockchain, and then tried to make it into some sort of a ID. Of course, it didn't scale or anything, but the idea is we got down and dirty and then get our hands into the mush and then we actually do stuff. So that's sort of the message with this slide that we started off very early with the blockchain work. And the crypto fund was launched in 2019, and then a bunch of blockchain cohorts were onboarded. So there is specific focus on blockchain technology from the fund. So there are about 20 startups. We did a Gitcoin pilot in 2022, and this year we are actually building a DAO prototype to be piloted with an open source project to see if it can democratize decision making in the DAO, in the open source project, and also hopefully plug into some sort of a fundraising mechanism, Web3 fundraising mechanism. Next. Yeah, I'll stand on this side. Yeah, so far we have had 3 blockchain specific cohorts. The first one was very exploratory. That's where we found Statwick, the supply chain solution. The second one, we got a little bit more focused. We wanted to find and work with companies that worked with money. And why for UNICEF? Because the angle is financial inclusion. So it involves remittances, loans, stuff like that. Then in the third one, we got a bit more real. Here, real world doesn't imply RWA or anything like that. For us, in our context, real is how can blockchain/Web3 help in delivery of services in a business context? Can it enable a business model? Can a broader community actually use it to build something and to make money? So we got very real with the third cohort. Next one. Yeah. So this is from the second cohort. Just some numbers, like for example, in the 1 year period, so there were more than 100,000 transactions between our startups. We reached about 700,000 beneficiaries. Yeah. Next one. Yeah, so this is a snapshot of the financial inclusion or fintech cohort. Sana already mentioned Excapit, which we worked with. So I would like to highlight two companies here. So the first one is Bloings on the top left from Mexico. Um, it's a strange name, yes, but but yeah. So at that time, the project was interesting. It was a older idea, but they actually did it. So which is to go on chain, to put on chain a traditional saving circle, which is done over paper in a small family group or something. But to take it on chain, and then to expand it, now that you can have saving circles across continents with hundreds of people. And then of course there is a credit history being built up because it's all on chain. So what else can that lead to, etc. And now I'm happy to say that they are now engaged with one of the countries in Africa, with the UNICEF office there, and we are going to utilize their solution, slightly modified for the local context, to build credit histories for out of school adolescents. And this is a very harsh environment. So many kids drop out of school, but then UNICEF on the ground is working to give them a future even if they don't finish schools. So they engage in entrepreneurial programs. So they have this little saving circle. So the idea is to apply their solution in this youth group, and then once the credit history gets built up, can that then be used to secure loans? And then further drive their progress forward. So that's one of the ideas with that. Kotani Pay is, I think, a reasonably well-known company now. Pretty straightforward, off-ramping with no smartphone or internet through SMS, financial inclusion. So we can work with people in a UNICEF context, people without bank accounts, people in areas where there is no internet, and we are able to reach them now. Yeah. Next. And this is another company from the cohort. We recently did a pilot at UNICEF Nepal. So this is a solution where they use blockchain. This is a permission blockchain solution, but to track the movement of cash from some government entities all the way into the hands of beneficiaries in rural Nepal. So this was done in a flood-prone district in Nepal, as part of the social protection scheme. Some stats from this particular solution. What is most interesting is these guys built it in such a way to be both financially inclusive as well as digitally inclusive. What I mean is it works for people with or without bank accounts, and with or without mobile phones. So the ones without mobile phone, they get a kind of a QR code, which then ties back to a wallet on the platform. So where their tokens are placed, and then they can redeem the tokens for cash at the physical cash collection point. Next. Yeah, so this was a third cohort. One interesting project that I always like talk about is XMesh. So this is where I mentioned about getting real, right? Getting into service delivery business models. So these guys, they have made a little hardware device which creates a Wi-Fi hotspot. The idea is to deploy this in areas where there is, in like remote communities where there is no internet, especially in schools. So the idea is to bring connectivity to schools, to children, right? Where is blockchain here? So blockchain is used to enable the business model. So the data which the people consume is then recorded on a blockchain, and then ultimately, if the jurisdiction is friendly for crypto, they could even potentially use some sort of crypto or some other token to pay for their data consumption. And then these hotspots is then deployed in the field by an internet entrepreneur, if you will. So it sort of generates some sort of economic activity in the community as well as bring connectivity to children. Yeah. So that's an interesting project. And recently we invested in a couple of startups. Mark right there is from Z Labs. So if you want any details, please talk to him. Yeah, so this is a focus on climate. So Z Labs is doing some great work with working with community, or enabling community to take climate positive actions through a variety of mechanisms. So that's super interesting. Then we have a parametric insurance solution which works with farmers, but we are hoping to learn from the mechanism and then ultimately deploy it in other UNICEF contexts, not just with farmers in Africa, but to go beyond that. Yeah, next. Yeah, as I said, we did a quadratic funding round, which was super interesting. So we listed 10 of our startups. You can see Kotani Pay, Statovic, Excapit. And we put in 50 ETH, and the quadratic funding round was very successful, I would say. We got back 67.5 ETH and 15,000 DAI, which was ultimately distributed to these 10 solutions. So these 10 solutions, which are part of our portfolio, are also certified digital public goods as per the DPG standard, so which is why we put them there. So this is fantastic. You can, of course, look at all the info there. There is a dune on this. And we want to see what else, how else can we explore the world of Web3 to fund our projects, because they do create open source output. And open source is open source. People don't get paid, but then how can we power these projects to go forward? So we are hoping mechanisms such as this and any other future mechanism that may come up in the world of Web3 can be plugged in, maybe in a DAO structure, which is also something that we are exploring. Yeah. There is an opportunity for us, which is we are now strategically looking at cash transfers. So what I mean by cash transfers is UNICEF and other agencies spend millions of dollars. UNICEF spend hundreds of millions of dollars each year in getting literal money into the hands of people where there is any humanitarian crisis or where there is deep-seated issues. Like I'm talking of Ukraine, I'm talking of Afghanistan, I'm talking of Yemen, Somalia, so on. So hundreds of millions of dollars. So it's fiat money right now. Maybe it's even physical cash or bank transfers or mobile money. But then can crypto be injected into this to make it cheaper, faster, and of course more visible? So there's been a lot of exploration here, a lot of research, a lot of digging, talking to partners, off-ramps, blah, blah, blah. So we are trying to figure this out and to do it in such a way that it can actually be scaled beyond just a pilot somewhere. So that is the goal. Yeah, so if you guys know of anything which can help us there, please let us know. Yeah, so partnerships around crypto for cash transfer programming. We are looking at financing models, as I told you, to see how we can further incentivize the development of open goods. And of course, other technical things, any smart contract audit capabilities will be nice to have if you guys know anybody. And of course, if you are a startup, please come to us, talk to us. You can get up to $100,000 seed funding. That's it from us. Thank you. Questions? Yeah. Okay. So the first thing is the crypto fund. Right now we have approved crypto. Maybe we are only approved to hold Bitcoin and Ethereum. So the next step would be to get a stable coin approved internally. So we are working on that, and there are a lot of discussions and research and all that going on. So once we get a stable coin or more than one stable coins approved, then we have the ability to hold stable coins. And then we can then start seeing how it can be injected into cash transfer programming. Yeah.
But is it like you are talking about the fund that will give money to startups, or is it the money that you will give to the end users, so beneficiaries?
Both. Maybe Sana can.
So we'll of course do the funding to startups in stable, hopefully, and then also even if we do it in crypto, like in Ether and Bitcoin, they will be able to change to stable if they wish to. So there's always that option. But then also for the cash transfer work, we are looking to do transfers to beneficiaries in stable. So if we this platform was currently tested, like RoomSun's platform was currently only tested in tokens. But we are considering looking at or RoomSun's platform or another similar platform building the crypto rails to do the transfers and do it in stable. So that would be the way to go ideally. But of course, it requires a lot of work in the process behind the scenes to make that happen.
I want to add one more thing. We, of course, keep an eye on regulation. It's super important for us, right? So we keep an eagle eye on that. So we may not be able to do it everywhere, but we are looking for a good point to start. And then, of course, to expand from there. Yeah, so that's.
Yeah. So, I mean, overall, like at the moment, what we're doing is evaluating a large number of stablecoins based on market cap, volatility, historical data on just volatility. We're also looking at whether it's collateralized, it's algorithm based, and what that would mean for UNICEF. Like, how would we work with one versus how would we work with another, and what kind of systems or processes we would need. Then there's a whole other sort of area which, as Arun mentioned, is related to regulation, but is also related to how we would account for it. So what are the different accounting standards? Are there international accounting standards already? Would it fall in as an intangible asset, as a financial asset? Can it be cash equivalents? We need to be able to, I mean, as a UN agency and as a big organization, we need to be able to identify what is the right system or the right methodology, and work very closely with our financial team, which is our treasury and bigger sort of financial division at UNICEF, to understand how we can account for it. And all those sort of considerations then impact what we can do or what we can accept. So yeah, currently that's where we're at. We're of course looking at a whole range based on market cap, transaction volume, and such, to be able to then make a decision. Arun, you wanna?
Our own stable coin, that will be super cool though, but let's see. Yeah, yeah. But it's, yeah, as she said, we look at market cap, transaction volume and all that, because ultimately we are not holding stables for any other purpose apart from giving to others. So they need to be able to use it. So I think that's finally what's important. Which one? Kotani Pay, yeah. Yeah, that could be something. Yeah, that was other. Uh, with respect to stable coins or yeah, yeah, of course. I mean, in previous conferences that I've been to, I have like connected with various people from various protocols and teams. So whenever we build internal prototypes, I just now reach out to them. I ask them for advice, because frankly, we are not the technical gurus. UNICEF, I think, is the custodian of then a use case. Like we have fantastic use cases. So we of course would need the technical community to come in. Then of course I'm like the sort of the bridge, and interpret the languages on both sides. But we need a lot of input and a lot of help. So technical prototypes, when we build internally, I tend to reach out to see who may be the right person. Like right now we got a bunch of inputs for the DAO work. In the future, any other topic, we would need inputs from everybody. Yeah. Yeah, yeah. We have spoken to them a few times. Yeah. I think Kotani is built on Cello. Kotani is built on Cello. Bloinks is built on Cello. Collectivo. Yeah. Yes. Yeah, we do. We publish about the startups that we invest in, and then later on, if the startup gets engaged in a pilot, then we wait for the pilot to be finished, an evaluation to be done, and then we publish something. So right now, that process is ongoing for the UNICEF Nepal pilot with the tracing of cash transfers within a Rumzan platform. So that is happening right now. So we will publish something. We should publish something once the Bloings pilot is also done. It's just kicking off, so maybe a year from now. Yeah.
I think there's a version of the Rumsan work midterm evaluation is already published. It was published actually in June. So we usually always publish that. We also publish a lot of stuff related to like, our learnings in the crypto space, in the blockchain space. We always sort of like where things worked, but more importantly where things failed. Because so that other agencies, other UN agencies or any other interested organizations can benefit from like what we're seeing work, also what we're seeing work. So even when others talk about use cases and like startups, we don't
Yeah.
just publish the ones that did well. We also publish the ones that didn't do well, because it's important. We think that as our fund, we want to challenge technology to do things better. We also want to make it clear where it's not doing things better, so that you're not building the same thing or investing in the same thing knowing it doesn't work, unless something's done right. So our website actually has a lot of like studies, reports on what's worked. Earlier we used to do something called Failure Fridays, where you used to basically talk about everything that's failed. Now unfortunately we don't need every Friday, maybe less than every week. Yeah.
Yeah. So please check out the website. There is a blog with tons of content from many years prior. Yeah.
And if you have specific questions, you can always reach out to us.
Okay. Thank you.